Hello everyone, and once again, welcome, not to Some Idiot Reads, even though I am in fact some idiot, and I am going to read. No, this is Nightmare Tuesdays, wherein I will sit and read through a bit of a teaser, a amuse-bouche? I don't even know if I'm using that right. I'm nowhere near classy enough to use the word amuse-bouche in a sentence. Please leave a comment if amuse-bouche is not the right word to be using here. Alright, hold on, let me mute my phone, just in case messages come in. Anyway, Nightmare Tuesdays. I'm going to read you a little bit of a teaser from the catalog of the fantastical Nightmare Press out of Shepherdsville, Kentucky. Did I get that right? It's right in front of me. Why am I questioning this? Anyway. This is a fantastic small publisher with an extensive catalog, and it is my distinct and singular honor to be putting a voice to some of their work. This being said, this is the second... I don't know what I'm doing anymore. I'm not scripting. Hi. Laugh at me in the comments. Please give me some engagement. Give Nightmare Press some engagement as well. And by engagement, I mean go peruse their catalog of books and buy books. That's a good engagement. Yes. So, what I am going into today is going to be Scrolls of Ramose, Scribe of Egypt, by James Arthur Anderson. And, let's see, what was the description I was given for this? This is my, as it is with any of these readings, most of these readings, anything on the Nightmare Tuesdays, I have not, this is my first time opening up the actual, book itself. I have not read any of this. I just have some basic info, which, let's see, this was described to me as a dark fantasy novel about the plagues of Egypt, told from the perspective of the Pharaoh's scribe, which honestly sounds really cool to me. So I am really looking forward to digging into this one. This work was edited by Darren Fay, and the cover work, which should be in the thumbnail for this, at least in part, I do a little tweaking, so it follows a specific format, but the cover art for this book is by Christy Aldridge of Grim Poppy Design. And from what I have seen, Christy, fantastic work, seriously, well done. As a quick note, no portion of this book may be copied or transmitted in any form, electronic or otherwise, without express written consent of the publisher or author. I do have the publisher's permission. Just so we're clear. To Lynn Lorelei? God, I feel terrible. I think I'm pronouncing that right. If I am pronouncing that incorrectly, Lynn, my sincerest apologies, and also to you, James. Dedications are very important elements for a book, and I am, if I did that wrong, I am very regretful of that. Please shame me in the comments. Engagement is fantastic. Okay. A quote. Do I dare disturb the universe? T.S. Eliot. Scroll number 1. The Place of Truth. Written in year 30 of the reign of Ramesses II of his name. May his rule be fruitful and long. I, Ramose, chief scribe and sec in the Place of Truth, leave this papyrus scroll in my tomb, where it will be forgotten until such time as it needs to be remembered. The events I have chronicled have been purged from the histories of the great King Ramesses, second to bear that name. I, Ramose, son of Amenenab, a humble servant from Der el Medina, was favored by the gods to serve as sec, chief scribe to the Pharaoh, son of Re and the living God on earth. And though I was instructed to destroy all records of the 10 great plagues sent upon the land by the vengeful and jealous God Yahweh, my reed pen and my ink palette, the instruments of truth, insisted that I recall and record the terrible events in hieroglyphics, the writing of the gods and the first kings, so that others might one day know and perhaps understand. I just want to take a very quick aside. There's a lot of heavy lifting done in that opening paragraph, and that is really well done, James. I appreciate that. There's a lot crammed in there, and that is well constructed, just as a written text. Perfect. After suffering the horror of the 10 plagues firsthand, I no longer have faith in the gods. Neither Amun-Re, the sun god, nor Osiris, lord of the afterworld, nor Hathor, goddess of childhood and fertility. Not any of the gods of the 2 lands of Chem. And, though I believe he exists, having seen this terrible deeds upon my people, I cannot worship the evil god Yahweh, the god of the wandering goat and sheep herders, who call themselves his children. The gods of Chem, if they do exist at all, have failed to protect their people and allowed the jealous god to rain terror down upon their innocent followers. And, as for the God of the Israelites, the one called I Am Who I Am, what God could be so cruel as to punish innocent people, babies and women, for the stubborn pride of their king, their don't know that word, even if he is Pharaoh, the living Horus on earth? I will not believe in the weak gods, though I mechanically make my offerings and do what I am supposed to do as the Pharaoh's sec. And I will not follow the vengeful god either. So, though my tomb awaits me, dutifully decorated with the beautiful chants and prayers and hymns and amulets to Osiris and all the gods of Chem, I do not expect to ever see my heart placed on the scales of Ma'at to be judged, and I do not ever expect my Ka, my spirit, to be admitted into the afterlife. Instead, I will become mere dust, to one day blow back across the desert sands from whence I came. Perhaps my scroll, this scroll, written in the language and symbols of the ancient gods and kings, will one day be revealed to human eyes, and the truth will, on that day, be known, and perhaps even understood. Scroll number 2. The Serpent and the Staff. Chronicling year 17 of the reign of Ramesses II of his name. May his rule be fruitful and long. I was busy reviewing the transcriptions of the delivery of bricks when Samer, Pharaoh's assistant, entered my office in the House of Truth to summon me. Ramose, he said, your services are needed in the Great Hall. It was nearly time for the midday meal, and such a summons was unusual at best. Although I had been appointed sec, chief scribe in the place of truth 12 years before, when Amenhotep had passed from this world to be with Osiris, I had only been in the northern capital Pi Ramesses for a season, having arrived when the Nile had flowed green and flooded the land with its life-giving soil. I'd only been invited to the Great Hall twice, once upon my arrival to receive the blessing of the king, who had requested that I leave my duties at Deir el-Medina and take on new work in the northern capital, where Pharaoh spent most of his time, and the other occasion, a week previous, to record his latest edicts concerning the Israelite slaves who, he believed, were becoming rebellious. Pharaoh had become annoyed with their grumbling, and had ordered them to gather their own straw to make bricks. Until arriving at Pi Ramesses, I had lived in Deir el Medina, the place of truth, a village across the river from Waset, near the Valley of Kings, where I worked on and oversaw the inscriptions for Pharaoh's tomb. The tomb had been completed now, and Pharaoh desired that I come north and oversee the records, as well as work on the inscriptions for the new Temple of Amun that was being completed in the city. After the Battle of Kadesh, where Pharaoh had defeated the Hittite and their king, Muwatallis, the king had built fortresses in the north and reassigned garrisons to the Delta region to remind any potential invaders of the might and power of the two lands. This move had, indeed, resulted in friendly treaties with the northern nations, and had ensured the delivery of tribute from those areas that had been conquered. It had been a time of unprecedented peace and posterity. Most of my duties were carried out in my office in the House of Truth, an administrative wing of the royal residence, where records and chronicles were prepared and stored by my staff of 3 assistant scribes and Jacob, a 10-year-old Israelite apprentice. When the walls of the new temple were plastered and ready for painting, come on, Si, get it together here, jeez, I would be called upon to write the inscriptions in the symbols of the gods and oversee the elaborate paintings, which depicted the accomplishments of Pharaoh in the name of his father, Amun-Re, including a detailed description of his heroics at Kadesh. I reported to the Vizier Pazer. Vizier Pazer? Pazer. The Tjte. The powerful and trusted advisor to the king, who oversaw the implementation of Pharaoh's wishes and commands throughout the two lands. This summons to the Great Hall, where the king himself sat on his throne, was out of the ordinary. Of course, I replied, setting aside the papyrus I had been examining and taking out a fresh, clean scroll to bring with me. Do you have any idea what this is about, Samer? Unlike some of the court administrators, I made a point to always treat everyone with respect. From the slaves who made the bricks, to the household servants, to the Jete? I'm going to go with Jete himself. My mother, Kakakaya, had, in fact, been an Israelite slave, a serving woman, and my father, Amenjahab, one of the ministers of justice, had fallen in love with her. He had bought her freedom, proclaimed his love, and married her. His position in Waset had afforded him the luxury of sending my older brother and I to school to become scribes. Alas, my older brother, Simut, long may he be remembered, became an army scribe and was killed by an arrow at Kadesh. The Israelite sorcerers have returned, Samer replied. Aaron does all the speaking, and his brother, Moses, will speak only in the language of his people, and only to Aaron. Pharaoh wishes you to record and translate the mumblings of this Moses, without letting him know that you understand his language. I nodded. It was well known that the Israelite sorcerers had come to Pi Ramesses to demand the freedom of the Hebrew captives, whose ancestors had been taken prisoner in the northern border wars of the second Amenhotep, over 100 years before, when they had joined other nomadic tribes to raid the cities and farmlands of the Delta. Amenhotep had defeated them and expanded the empire north, taking slaves from all the defeated tribes to work on the great temple of Karnak. Nearly 600 of the descendants of these slaves still remained in the pharaoh's care, and they and their families had been brought to the northern capital to build bricks for the construction of the city and its temples. and had been granted homes in Goshen, a section of the city of Avaris, reserved for them just across the canal from their workplace in the capital. The women had become household servants to officials in the city, and, in fact, Ruth, one of my wife's personal servants, was a resident of Goshen. My mother, who had taught me the language, of the Israelites, had also been a servant of a magistrate until my father bought her freedom. The Israelite sorcerer's mistake, in my mind, had been evoking the name of his god, Yahweh, translated into Egyptian as I am who I am, in claiming that his god held power over Amun-Re himself. He had compounded this mistake by demanding the release of the slaves, who he called the children of Israel, so they could march off into the desert and make barbaric sacrifices and offerings to this god. These foreign sorcerers, it was said, had also refused to prostrate themselves before Pharaoh by refusing to bow, which was insulting enough to have them executed for treason. This left Ramesses no choice but to refuse their demand and have them escorted from his presence by the palace guards. The only reason they were not hanged head downward from the temple wall or thrown to the crocodiles was the fact that they were foreigners who had wandered in from the north and did not know the ways of Khem. As in the living Horus on earth, the Pharaoh could never bow down or submit to the will of any foreign god, especially not one worshipped by a tribe of his vanquished enemies. If this god had been so powerful, it was thought, why had he not defeated Amenhotep's chariots 100 years ago? No. In the great house, and among the two lands, it was believed that these two sorcerers were nothing but impostors, charlatans, who thought they could bully the king of Khem, the most powerful empire in the world, into giving them their way. I understand, I told Semer. I will be there immediately. Although the official capital of the two lands was in Waset, a 2-day passage to the south, the royal residence in Pi Ramesses had been completed 12 years ago, and the city and its structures had expanded each year as Pharaoh spent more and more time in the north, leaving Waset as the religious capital, where the king would return to celebrate the festival of Opet at the temples of Karnak and Luxor. Located just across a small branch of the river from Avaris, Pharaoh's sprawling city contained a section of villas for his administrators, villas for his children, a town for servants of the king and his officials, great temples to the gods Amun, Re, Ptah, and Utet, royal and municipal gardens, and 3 separate barracks and military grounds, one for the infantry, another for the cavalry and their 1,000 chariots, and another along the Nile for the marines and their warships. My office was about a 300-cubit walk from the entrance of the great hall, where Pharaoh sat on his golden throne and met with Passer and his top officials, the priests of the great temples, foreign dignitaries and emissaries, bringing tribute or requesting an audience. Entering the great hall was an experience to be remembered, and as I walked through the entrance and made my way past the columns lining the huge opulent chamber, I reminded myself that I was one of the few privileged residents of the city who had ever seen or would ever see this spectacle. For the uninitiated, even imagining this spectacular place would have been impossible. After his heroic victory at the Battle of Kadesh, Ramesses had begun a series of massive building projects that would display his power and authority, from Abu Simbel on the border with Cush to the south, to his new city on the delta, which, named after the pharaoh himself, was the Shining Star. The Great Hall could have held hundreds of people, but seldom did. Instead, on festival days, or to celebrate great victories and events, Pharaoh would appear in the viewing window, a high balcony that looked out over the city, and from where he could be seen by thousands. Today, like most days, the Great Hall was virtually empty, and my steps echoed hollowly from the huge stone columns that lined its central aisle. Pharaoh sat on his gold throne at the end of the columned walkway, nearly 300 cubits from the entrance. From this distance, the great king looked like a small, ornamental statue. The huge limestone columns and mud brick coated walls had been plastered with glazed faience and adorned with colorful, larger-than-life paintings depicting Pharaoh's might. Subduing his enemies with club and mace, accepting tribute of gold, copper, and livestock from his vassals in Cush and Syria, and charging into battle on his war chariot, shooting his bow at those who would oppose him. Several scenes depicted Pharaoh as a lion, devouring his enemies. Some showed him with the hawk head of Horus as the living god on earth. Others showed him riding in the golden baroque of the sun god, his father, Amun-Re. Alabaster statues of the gods lined the walls. Intricate and elaborate depictions of Osiris, Isis, the cat god Bast, the jackal-headed Anubis, and Thoth, the god of scribes with his ibis head. There was a statue of Horus, larger than the rest, and last and most impressive, a colossal alabaster likeness of Pharaoh himself, standing 50 cubits tall, wearing the royal headdress and holding the crook and the flail, symbols of royal power. I dutifully lowered my eyes as I approached the great king and walked slowly and deliberately, as dictated by protocol. Pharaoh's throne was raised on a platform with a stone staircase before it. I stopped at the base of the steps and began the ritual of the 7 bows, 7 times prostrating myself first on my belly and then on my back. "Enough," Pharaoh said after I had completed the first 7 bows. "We grant you the gift of the bow of Horus." Pharaoh's words took me by surprise. I felt my face flush as I stood up. The bow of Horus, a single bow, was reserved only for those who were familiar to the pharaoh, those in the trusted, most inner circle of advisors for whom the 7-bow ritual was not required. "Thank you, my king," I said. "Sit by my side," Pharaoh said. A wooden chair had been placed on the king's left side, and with one last bow of my head, I walked up the stairs and took my place. Passer, the Jete, was already seated at Pharaoh's right. Pharaoh's 2 personal guards stood, one on each side, armed with a long spear and bronze sword. Pharaoh wore the red and white double crown of Upper and Lower Egypt that protected his head but showed his thick red hair framing the sides of his face. A gold breastplate covered the front of his luxurious red tunic, and a thick chain of gold and lapis lazuli adorned his neck. "I am honored, Nswit," I said in a nervous voice. Pharaoh nodded and called to his servant, who was waiting in the long aisle. "Allow them to enter." Samer hurried to the entrance and returned a moment later, followed by 2 men wearing long lambskin robes of their nomadic herding tribe. Both had white hair and beards, which were considered barbaric in Kem, where men were clean-shaven. Only Pharaoh himself wore a beard, the ceremonial gold beard that had signified kingship since the ancient days of Namer, the first pharaoh, who had united the upper and lower lands over 1,000 inundations ago. One of the foreigners carried a long, crooked staff of a herdsman. Semer led the men to the base of the steps, the place where I had stopped, and bowed. "Great King, I present the priests of the Israelites, Moses and Aaron," Semer said. When Semer motioned for them to bow, the foreigners scowled. "We bow to no man," said Aaron, the one with the staff. "Pharaoh is not a mortal man, but a god, the living Horus on earth," Semer explained patiently, as if speaking to a child. The one on the left, Moses, looked directly into Pharaoh's eyes and spoke in the language of his people, a language that, despite his northern accent, I could easily understand. "We only bow to the one true God, Yahweh," he said. The one with the staff translated for him. "Yes," Pharaoh said, "so you have told us at our last meeting. I have excused your rudeness to the gods only because you come from the east and are wanderers, without roots or manners. Still, you come seeking royal favor and then offer insult." "We mean no insult. We merely follow the commands of our God, the one true God." Ramesses nodded impatiently. "Proceed." "Great King," Aaron said, "in the name of our God, the one God, I am who I am, we ask that you set the Israelite slaves free, so that they may make a pilgrimage into the wilderness, to offer sacrifices and offerings, and to worship their God. Yahweh commands it." The Lord will harden the Pharaoh's heart," Moses said, but only Aaron and I could understand him, and Aaron did not translate this time. I wondered at the meaning behind the words as I transcribed them onto my scroll. Although I had been granted the privilege of the single bow, I still dared not look directly at Pharaoh, but the two foreign priests looked directly into his eyes, not lowering their gaze in respect of Ramesses as either Pharaoh or God. The silence in the great hall was hollow and deep, and it seemed to last forever. Finally, Pharaoh stood to his full height and looked down at these foreigners. His voice was low and powerful and godlike, and he spoke his words slowly and clearly, as if he were ordering a wayward child to do his chores. "If your God is so powerful as to command the son of Re and the living Horus on earth, then prove it." Both priests took a step back, as if they were repelled by Pharaoh's words. Then they looked at one another, and an understanding seemed to pass between them. Although both men were white-haired and old, their eyes sparkled with youth and vitality. "Do as your God commanded," Moses said to his brother, and I transcribed and translated his words onto my scroll. Aaron nodded, almost perceptibly, then almost imperceptibly, my bad. Then looked back up at Pharaoh and nodded again, boldly this time. "As you wish," he said, and dropped his staff to the floor. The long, crooked staff seemed to blur, become translucent, almost liquid. Then it reformed itself, slowly taking on a new shape. I gasped as I realized what was happening. The staff reformed itself into a snake, a king cobra. It slithered at Aaron's feet, then rose up and displayed its hood, facing Pharaoh directly. The guards charged forward, lowering their spears and placing themselves between the king and the snake. Passer also started to rise, but Pharaoh placed a hand on his shoulder and held him back. Ramesses laughed out loud. "A cheap trick," he said. "Semer, summon my sorcerers." The servant ran from the great hall, and the guards took one menacing step forward, bracing themselves on the top stair, their their spears ready. "Your weapons are harmless against the power of the one true God," Aaron said. "But have no fear. The serpent poses no threat." "Amun-Re protects us," Passer said. Soon enough, Semer returned with two men wearing long white robes, embroidered with bright red hieroglyphics, containing protective spells, some of which I recognized from the ancient texts of the Pyramid Kings. Semer must have explained the situation, because they appeared confident and ready. The pair walked down the aisle of the great hall and stood on either side of Moses and Aaron. The royal sorcerers, Imhotep and M-Dog. I'm sorry. Semer said to the foreign priests. "They will show the simpleness of your so-called god's magic," Pharaoh said. "Give us your spears," Imhotep said, gesturing to Pharaoh's guards. Reluctantly, the guards handed them their weapons, but put their hands on the hilts of their sheathed swords, just in case they were needed. Each of the sorcerers recited a chant from the old language of the great pharaohs Khufu and Khafren, the builders of the ancient pyramids across the river from Mennefer. Then they threw the spears down beside Aaron's cobra. The spears also began to change, blurring, becoming transparent like crystal, and then reforming into twin cobras themselves. They hissed and raised their hoods to face Aaron's snake. "A simple trick," Pharaoh said, "one that any sorcerer can perform." Moses spoke again in his native language. "Kill it," he commanded. The Israelite snake lashed out and bit the snake on its right. The bitten snake spasmed and died as Aaron's cobra turned immediately and bit the second snake. It, too, thrashed and died. Then Aaron's snake swallowed each of the others in turn. Pharaoh's sorcerers drew back in terror, and the guards drew their swords. I dared to sneak a glance at Pharaoh. He had gone silent and pale. Aaron knelt and picked up the cobra by its tail. Instantly, it was a wooden herder's staff once again. Pharaoh's face reddened with anger. "Get out!" he screamed at the foreign priests. "You and your demon god are not welcome here. And now we vow that we will never let your people go to worship your demonic god. They and their children and their children's children will stay and toil under the heat of Amun-Re until they die, begging the blessings of the sun god. That is the price they will pay for your mocking of the gods." even as Pharaoh turned his back on Moses and Aaron. His guards had already grabbed the priests by the elbows and were roughly escorting them out of the great hall, out of the palace, out of the city of Ramesses, and into the deserts. And that is where I'm going to stop, because, okay, like, I only make a point. It's only going to be like 2 chapters worth. It's a teaser. It's meant to get you to go like, oh my god, I want to know more of this. What happens next? Where can I go get a copy? Well, you can get a copy at Nightmare Press. I'm going to have the link down in the description. You should totally go check them out and grab a copy of this. Because in all honesty, like, I actually really hate myself that I'm only doing like 2 chapters right now. Because like, this is kind of getting me like, okay, all right, cool. I'm digging this. That's some very good evocative imagery going on here. And again, that opening paragraph, ooh, and like, dude, James, you carry it through the rest of this so far. I'm really liking that, as well as just the twist on the traditional, biblical interpretation of that, twisting it around to the other perspective. I appreciate that sort of a thing. That is really cool. Hopefully I did proper with providing some voice to that. If not, well, my apologies, man. I'm so sorry. And if I did, huzzah! No, all around. Even though that was like 12 pages in, this one grabs you. I really appreciated that. I look forward to reading the rest of it. So, where's my brain going? Come on, brain. This has been Nightmare Tuesday, with the Scrolls of Ramose, Scribe of Egypt by James Arthur Anderson. Available by Nightmare Press. Again, their link will be in the description. I will also have a direct link to the purchase of the book itself, and I'm still fleshing this one out here, guys. I don't think there's much else to add to it. If you did enjoy, please give a like, maybe a comment, subscribe. I've got plenty of other readings here. I look forward to continuing to expand on the Nightmare Tuesdays. I've also got a significant number of dispatches from Appalachia, from Coyote Wallace, another laureate. Is that the right word here? I'm going to roll with that. A laureate of Nightmare Press. And, some other stuff. There's some video games. We have fun. But more importantly even than subscribing to this channel, or liking this video, or leaving a comment, or any other kind of engagement. More important than that, I truly appreciate Nightmare Press existing, being a solid, independent publisher. All too often, I honestly have seen big name publishers, not to put too fine of a point on it, they're chicken shit. They want to publish a sure thing more often than not. I mean, I've got a friend that's working on trying to get himself published. He's had his own issues. He's still getting things sorted out, but I'm going to maybe try and point him towards Nightmare's way. We'll see how that goes as he gets stuff going along. But, yeah, big name publishers, they're chicken shit little bastards. Whereas, you find it's the same deal in video games. Indie space is where there is fresh and new and awesome stuff happening. I barely pay any attention to AAA space anymore. And it's the same deal with publishers here. Nightmare is some solid stuff. I genuinely do feel deeply honored to be reading from you guys' catalog. I hope that I can continue to do so. So please, if you did enjoy this, above everything else, go check out Nightmare Press's stuff. Buy a book. Buy several books. Buy one book, but several copies. Buy several copies of several different books. Whatever it is that you do, show them some love. Spread the word. And what's that, Bones? Bones says deuces.